Hi, everyone. This is Ali Hussein Kasim with our weekly roundup of tech news across Africa and the world, those that impact Africa's tech ecosystem. This week, we're following four case stories. One of them is basically sort of rehashing and looking at what actually happened. The first story is on OpenAPI's shenanigans with Sam Altman. Second is Egypt's central bank seems to really be taking a serious look at fintech and starting to really empower the ecosystem. And we'll get into how they're doing that. Third is an interesting one. Zambia's government has intervened in an ongoing war between banks and fintechs. More on that shortly. Last but not least, South African's fintech firm Stitch launches a crypto payment platform. So back to OpenAPI. So we've all been following this interesting story around Sam Altman and his colleague, who was the president and the chair of the board of OpenAPI, who were abruptly let go last week, and then within 3 days, they were hired back. What was that all about? First, obviously, these guys, OpenAPI, have become really the poster child of generative AI with their chat GTP product. And all of a sudden, we found a few days ago the board called extraordinary board meeting and fired Sam Altman and basically accused him of lying. A few hours, like 48 hours later, Microsoft announces that they are hiring Sam into Microsoft's AI division. Now, for me, this was a very interesting story around not technology, but around governance and how boards need to operate. First things first, Microsoft owns 49% of OpenAI through their $10 billion investment earlier this year, I think January or February. Not only that, the agreement around that investment has Microsoft commanding 75% of all profits that OpenAPI will be making. Now, you ask yourself, why would Microsoft be hiring someone or from a company that is actually an investee? And what about the board composition? If Microsoft had a problem, or if the other, whoever had an issue, there were mechanisms to follow through. Looks like the board overstepped its boundaries, but also looks like the board did not really follow through and tell us exactly what the issues were. So, this issue around governance is critical. And it doesn't matter which industry you are in, whether you're in tech, whether you are in agri, whether you are in bank, I think governance is critical. And I'm hoping that with these shenanigans, apparently Sam Altman is now back at OpenAI, but still lots of questions remain to be answered. Apparently, and these stories are still not corroborated, there's this whole thing around artificial general intelligence. This is basically a point where AI reaches a critical point where it gains general intelligence and it can start thinking for itself. Now, the story goes that Sam employees wrote to the board about this issue, and this could have been the catalyst for Sam Altman's firing. But it seems that he's a key man, one-man genius, and he had to be brought back. This story is still unfolding, and I honestly don't think we've had the last of this. My second story is around what is going on with the Egyptian central bank. Seems like the Egyptian central bank is paying critical attention to fintech. They're even embedding aspects of fintech into their banking act with some amendments. But more importantly, there is some huge investments going in, hundreds of millions of dollars, to enable fintech across the Egyptian financial services ecosystem. This is what it should be. This is what regulators and policymakers need to look at. Fintech is going nowhere. And it's not just about startups, it's about the whole ecosystem and how fintech can enable this. So kudos to the Egyptian central bank for this. I'm hoping that this will be a blueprint for other central bankers to start paying attention and embedding policy into this whole interesting space. The third story we are following this week is Zambia's government stepping in to play referee between a festering war between banks and fintech. Banks in Zambia are afraid that fintechs are going to eat their lunch. Fintechs, on the other hand, are feeling that maybe the policy and regulatory ecosystem is not structured to favor them. And here is the thing. Each side needs to play nice. Fintechs need to play nice with banks, and banks need to play nice with fintechs. There is a clear and present reason for these two sectors to collaborate. And with proper policies in place, these issues around fighting tough wars need not happen. I think a very good example is Kenya. The Kenya financial services ecosystem, despite certain lack of policy guidelines like around open banking and stuff, banks and fintechs are playing very well together. Despite maybe a few hiccups here and there, we are finding that the players in financial services in Kenya are actually probably one of the very few across Africa that are playing nice despite lack of proper policy guidelines around how they can collaborate. This is obviously thanks to the Central Bank of Kenya allowing such collaboration happening, but also the players within the financial services ecosystem in Kenya have accepted and acknowledged the fact that playing nice together with each other makes sense for the long term. We can see players like Safaricom's M-Pesa with their Daraja API platform, Equity Bank's Jenga, KCB also has an API platform. I think gov't has moved into the game. GTB is starting to play in the enablement of fintechs across Kenya. So Zambia and probably many countries across Africa need to take a leaf out of how Kenya has operated in this ecosystem. My last story is covering South Africa. South Africa's fintech startup Stitch, which really was formed to create a one sort of payment platform or ecosystem or API across the continent, is moving towards crypto and enabling crypto payments within the South African payment ecosystem. Now, pay attention to this, ladies and gentlemen. This is only possible because the South African financial regulator has clarity on how to deal with crypto and other digital assets. Without that clarity, this fintech would not be announcing this payment platform using crypto. Very, very critical to understand and appreciate that policy and regulation is a bedrock of financial services. And without that, we are going to continue having issues within the ecosystem around enabling fintech. Ladies and gentlemen, this is it for this week. Looking forward to more conversations in the weeks to come. Thank you very much.